I'm Stacy and welcome back to my channel, Time to Teach. In today's video, we are going to be talking about how I collect data within my classroom. So if you enjoyed collecting data, and you might not enjoy collecting data, but let's talk about it anyway, because I know data can be a love-hate relationship with teachers. I personally enjoy collecting data because I think that it helps me with my instruction, and by reflecting on that data every day, I know the moves that I want to take the following day within my instruction and what students I need to help. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So we are going to talk about 5 ways that I collect data within my first grade classroom. Got my notes, always got my notes. Okay, so how I collect data. So number 1, this would be how I collect data on a daily basis. So that would be exit tickets. I am a math teacher within first grade because we are departmentalized. So I teach math 3 times a day. So my data is actually displayed all along my whiteboard. So I have what we call a scoreboard within every first grade classroom. Each student's name is on a magnet, and depending on what they get on their exit ticket, and if I have a picture, I will put it in here and put it up here somewhere. But each student will receive a score on their exit ticket, and I use Engage New York or Eureka Math, same thing. So if you teach that, you're familiar with that system, that it comes with an exit ticket. So each student will get a 1, 2, 3, or 4 on their exit ticket. 1 meaning they didn't meet the target. 2, they're almost there. So 1 we call not yet. 2 means they're almost there. 3 means they met the target. And 4 means they got a 3 and they went above and beyond and wanted to get above a 3, so they can go up to a 4. So usually they would create their own math problem and then solve it. So once the student gets their score, they have to go and move their magnet underneath the number. This is a way to help students be more responsible for their work. They work harder. They work on the problems longer. They ask for more help because they know they have to go display their score. It makes them more accountable, and first graders enjoy doing it. And if they don't get a 3 or a 4 and they get a 1 or a 2, they're like, Miss Hanson, I'm going to work so hard tomorrow to get that one, the 3 or a 4. So I feel like they appreciate that daily feedback on their work, and it's instant. It's instant and it's daily. So they, don't get their score or their paper back in 3 or 4 days. They get it that day. And all first grade teachers have trained their kids. We do core instruction for that hour. Within that hour, we're doing partner work. We're scaffolding through the lesson. We're talking to them about their score. We're giving them an opportunity, if they get a 1, to go back and try for a 2. So it's just instant data I'm getting. They're getting instant feedback. And I can just look up at the scoreboard and see, okay, I've got, 5 kids with 1s, 10 kids with 2s, and the rest of the class with 3s and 4s. So I have that instant percentage. If my kids, if there's like 70 to 80% kids that met that target that day, I can move on to the next lesson. If they didn't, I'm reteaching it the next day. So it's nice to have those exit tickets and that data. And that's very important to me as an instructor, to have that instant data and give my students that instant feedback, even in a first grade classroom. So that would be my number 1 way of how I collect data in the classroom. Number 2 is DRA. So if you're familiar with DRA, this is a district assessment that's required. It's diagnostic reading assessment. So you give it at the beginning of the year, the middle, like we'll give it again in January when we get back after break, and then at the end of the year. So for the DRA, students, it's recommended they come into first grade at a level 4. They should be at a level 10 by November, December, and then be at a level 18 by the end of the year, which doesn't always happen. Those are just the recommendations. So we collect that data. But in between that time, we're going to actually start progress monitoring, because within the DRA kit there is progress monitoring, and there's a booklet in there called Word Analysis if you're familiar with DRA, and you can progress monitor your student depending on what level they're on, and all the information is in there, all the worksheets that you need, all the score sheets. So you're not reinventing the wheel. You have all that information there. It also focuses on sight words, the phonological aspect of DRA, not just memorizing sight words and the words from the story. You're going to focus on initial sounds, blends, diagraphs, so the testing relates to that, which I thought is very beneficial. So that's other data that I collect. So that's number 2, so DRA. Number 3 would be another district assessment called Iready. So if you're familiar with that, it's all done on the computer. We also do this 3 times throughout the year, beginning of the year, after winter break, and at the end of the year. And Iready also goes on the report card, just like the DRA. And Iready is also what the district looks at the end of the year to see what scores each school got, what their growth is, and they also look at each grade level. So that's also presented at our data meeting. So that we'll talk about that in January at our staff data meeting, what our scores are, what's our next instructional moves, and how are we going to move our kids. So that will all be discussed. Another way that I collect data is just progress monitoring. That could be with any type of running records that you have, like within guided reading, or just giving your kids simple exit tickets with progress monitoring within guided reading. There's so many whatever strategy you're working on or whatever skill you're working on, because within guided reading, I don't just read books with my students. I also have something right there. I also work on skills as well. So that could be diagraphs or blends or whatever the skill is that the student needs. And I get that information from my fellow teacher who teaches reading. So it's so nice that we each teach a subject, because we can share these ongoing assessments and this ongoing progress monitoring with each other. And then we tackle it within our guided reading groups, which is great. So it's just ongoing data that we get to help our kids keep moving, because guided reading is all about moving kids. They shouldn't just be in a group for months. So it's definitely good to give them at least a solid month to show progress, and then see where you can move them. If you need to move them up a group, or you need to change the skills they're working on, or whatever that might be. And then number 5 would just be my observations as a teacher and the notes that I take, like within guided reading. When I'm working with a particular group, I do write down certain things that I'm seeing. Maybe a certain student is struggling with sight words, and so I will make our next lesson based on sight words with that student, or I'll work with them for 5 minutes after I work with the whole group for 15 minutes. So a lot of observation. And if you're a first grade, well, any teacher, anything that you're observing when your students are working with a partner and sharing, and you're listening to their conversation, you have to be listening to those conversations and what they're saying, and paying attention to what they're writing, and everything. You're observing everything. So you remember what you hear, and you can apply that to your instruction, and you can apply that to your guided reading group. So those would be the 5 ways that I collect data within my classroom. So let's just recap, because I know I went through that kind of fast. So number 1 would be daily exit tickets. Number 2 would be DRA, the Diagnostic Reading Assessment. Number 3 would be Iready. Number 4 is just ongoing progress monitoring. And number 5 is observations and my own notes that I take. So please let me know if you use any of these if any of these are a way that you collect data in the classroom. Please share below, leave comments, questions, and then my upcoming video will be so this is how I collect it. The next video will be how I use it, because there's one thing about collecting it, most importantly is how are you using it? That's what's important. It's great to collect it, but you got to do something with it. So that's the real important thing. So please, keep an eye out for that in my next video. I am on winter break. Woohoo! So I'm excited. I'm going to make some videos over break, and I'm just excited to share this knowledge with you, and of course gain knowledge from you to help me be the best teacher I can be in my classroom. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you got something beneficial from it, and make sure to subscribe, hit that little bell so you'll be notified when my next video comes up. And God bless you, and God bless your students. All right, fellow teachers, take care.